What is up, guys? Welcome to the Dynasty Fan Podcast. Got a good show for you today talking about Week 15 waiver wire ads to get you ready for your fantasy playoffs. So, how's it going, Ryan? How's those fantasy playoffs coming around?
It's going okay, man. In most of my leagues, the Kyler Murray news that we got today a little while ago really sucks. It's tough for us. It was tough for Kyler Murray, number one, but right, he doesn't really care, I'm sure, about our fantasy playoffs. But for us that are in dynasty with Kyler Murray, that's tough, man. Super flex dynasties is a QB1. I'm in one of my leagues right now. I'm a number one seed. I have a first round bye. I'm sitting at 10-2, 11-2, and I just lost Kyler, and that's tough. But
This late in the game, too, man.
Yeah. So, which is another thing why we should always have trades on in dynasty leagues. They should never be turned off. Yeah. Don't play in any dynasty leagues where trades are turned off. You should always have them on because if you have an injury like this, you should be able to make a trade, right? If you're a contending team, I think, anyways. But that's a story for another day.
Up until playoff time.
Yeah. Especially if you're the number one seed, right? And you lose a guy like Kyler Murray. Anyways.
Exactly. Same thing happened to me. I lost Jimmy G. I lost Lance, Stafford, Jimmy G. And then Mike White, man. I had Mike down to Mike White. I luckily picked up Baker Mayfield. We'll see. We'll see how the Baker Mayfield experiment goes. But it's pretty tough when you're down to Baker when you're all in. Mm-hmm. All right. So to start off, guys, if you guys have not seen before, first of all, welcome to the show. And we're going to be talking about all our players that we roster that we're going to be talking about are less than 55% rostered, all of our waiver wire pickups, sorry. And we're going to give you our top tight end and QBs, and then we'll give you our top 5 waiver wire ads at the wide receiver and running back position. Only one wide receiver today, because I think, like you were saying, we were talking about it earlier, Ryan, this late in the game, I mean, your wide receivers core, your wide receivers should be set, maybe 2 on the bench, right? And in case of emergency, right, an injury. But down to the wire now, really it's just one game at a time. And really the guys that are going to be their most bang for your buck are going to be these running backs, right? We've seen a lot. Look at Zonovan Knight, man. Just right off the bat, just right off the waiver wire, plug him in. He's going to give you 15 plus fantasy points. So that's kind of what we're looking at right here. Some of these guys that are still on your waiver wire that have some upside. So starting off with our honorable mentions, Jameson Williams, man. He came out. I like Jameson Williams just as an upside kind of wait and see guy, right? He's not been playing much. I think he played less than like 15 snaps, but he got a touchdown, man, already. He broke a pretty big play. I think it was like a 40-something yard touchdown. He only had 2 targets. One of them went for 40 and a touchdown, man. So we know Jameson Williams, right, with that speed, right, the elite prospect, that he could just make big plays. And if he just continues to get healthy, right, I know he's been out a while, only been the second game back, but if he gets a little increase in snap share, right, heading into the playoffs, like maybe by week 16, man, he might be someone you can throw in there, especially if you have an injury. You could put him in your flex as an upside guy, maybe even like a Christian Watson type if he gets an increase in snaps. So I do like Jameson Williams as a little wait and see stash. Jordan Mason also, just because CMC, right, with what's going down there, they have Brock Purdy there. He's been getting a little bit more increase in workload, been a little bit banged up. So definitely like Jordan Mason. It seems like he may be the handcuff there. And then DJ Chark, he's 55% roster for DJ Chark. Man, he's had back-to-back pretty good games, dude. But I think the reason he's honorable mention here for me is they have the Jets coming up, man. And the Jets are not allowing receivers to do jack on them. So DJ Chark, I don't mind adding him, but I definitely don't want to play him right this next week against the Jets. And going into our All right, do you have anything about any of those honorable mentions? What do you think about any of those guys?
Well, I mean, I think that at this point, I would probably want to take a crack at the San Francisco backfield just with McCaffrey's health. They're going to rely heavily on the run, right? I mean, with Purdy, they're going to run a lot. McCaffrey had a huge workload, had a big day. So if something were to happen to McCaffrey, gets contusion or misses a game here coming down to the stretch, then somebody else is going to have a big workload. And we've seen multiple running backs. They just plug them in there, and they do well. And so that's kind of the guy I would think would be the guy, right? You would think Obviously, we don't know. It could be somebody else, but that'd probably be the guy I would want to roster.
Yeah, I agree, man. It seems he was the one that got a little bit of carries last time. I thought it was TDP, but we'll see. And then coming off for our QB streamer, we have Ryan Tannehill, man. Had a pretty good game last week, got 17 fantasy points. We know he's got the rushing upside. And then they take on the Chargers, man. So the Chargers have been a good matchup so far for QBs, as it seems like they are every year, right? Getting to some shootouts with Justin Herbert. So definitely like Ryan Tannehill. If you are desperate, say you are the Kyler Murray owner, I think Ryan Tannehill is definitely a good little sneaky pickup for you. And he's still out there. He's still highly available. And I think he's only 38% rostered. We didn't put that on there, but he's 38% rostered only on the sleeper league. So if you're in a pinch, which I know a lot of people are, man, quarterbacks have been going down a lot this year. So definitely Ryan Tannehill. And right here, moving into tight end, we got Chigo, man. Earned me a first round bye in one of my leagues. I ran out Chigo. I forgot who I had that one of my tight ends that got hurt, but we have Chigazine
Goddard. I think you have
Okonkwo.
Goddard and
I
Hurst.
had Goddard and Hurst. Yeah, Hurst was the next one I had that went down. So Chiga Okonkwo, man, he's looked pretty good. I think without Burks, he's earned a little bit more playing time. He's got back-to-back games, I think, with at least 50% of the snaps. I think he has 5 or more targets in 3 games. So he had six for like 80 and a touchdown or something. I think my 6 for 40 something and a touchdown. So 18 fantasy points or so for Chig O. Definitely like to see it, man. So I think he's definitely a solid pickup. I put Dosich on here with a little asterisk because he plays Arizona, and Arizona are the number 1 team giving up points to the tight end position. So Greg Dosich, but he's over 60% roster. But if he's out there, I think he's a valuable streamer for next week if you need a tight end. To save you or the Hayden Hurst owner like me. So I do prefer him next week over Chig O, but still a good little tight end ad this late in the game, right? Tight end's always a wasteland. So what do you think about either of these guys, right?
I like both of them, man. Like I've been playing Dulcich now for a couple weeks, and really he didn't have a huge game, but at least gave you something. He gave you a floor, and we've seen like tight ends are just so bad this year, dude. If you don't have Kelsey, it's just a wasted position this year. You can say, yeah, Hawkinson's been okay, but I mean, think about it. Waller, we drafted him high. He hasn't done anything, and Andrews has been a disappointment. And so, really, the only person that you want rostered right now is probably Kelsey. So, yeah, I mean, I've been pretty happy with Dulcich since I picked him up off the waiver wire, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. So our number 5 waiver wire ad is Elijah Moore. So, at the beginning of the year, we were pretty high on Elijah Moore. He hasn't really been all that great, but he's had a couple of good games here recently. 2 out of the last 3 games, he's had pretty good games. 82% snap share this past game with Corey Davis going down. So we know that Corey Davis is banged up, so he's probably going to be out this week. So he just kind of opens the door and gives Elijah Moore more of an opportunity. He had 10 targets this past week, 6 catches, and for 60 yards. So, somebody that if you're in a pinch, you need somebody, or just a bench player that we can add, and we'll see, right? Maybe in the next couple of weeks, his targets continue to be there, and his snap share percentage also continues to go up. And then maybe he's somebody that we'll kind of lean on or trust a little bit as the playoffs go along. Or if we have an injury, we need a flex play. I think, he's somebody that could be a viable option for us at some point in the playoffs. So what do you think about Elijah Moore, K?
Yeah, man, for sure. I was, like many other people, was very high on Elijah Moore coming in. I got him in a few drafts. I think like maybe round 6 or 7, I think is where he was going. But he was one of my favorite guys to pick up, right, in redraft leagues and all my mock drafts. Right, I was always grabbing Elijah Moore. But didn't turn out good, right, in the beginning, but definitely on the way up, right? He was in the doghouse for a while, right? Some of the things that he said, I think, but now, seeing that snap share go up, we know that he's talented, man. We've seen him make big plays. That's why everybody fell in love with him last year. So I like what you're saying. Just get him right now, put him on your bench. And if we start seeing some more like 8 to 10 target games, right? Another one in there. And like I said, somebody that you can put in your flex. And then Mike White has also some great, if Mike White is healthy, he's got a great schedule, man. I forgot who it is off the top of my head, but I know he was like our number one QB ad last week just because of the playoff schedule. But the Jets have a really nice playoff schedule, so
they play
definitely like
Detroit. He plays Detroit
Detroit.
and
Okay,
Jacksonville. Those would be his next 2 games. Then he has
and Kevin's
Seattle
game.
and Miami.
Yeah, see,
So
yeah,
pretty good.
Seattle's
3 out
great.
of 4. Yeah, 3 out
Seattle
of
and
4 pretty
Detroit. We have
solid
3 more
matchups.
weeks, so it would be that Seattle, Detroit, Jacksonville. Not too bad, but they're a little tougher. But definitely like that for Elijah Moore and Mike White if he's out there, right, and he's healthy. So moving into our number 4 waiver wire ad, we got Chuba Hubbard, 39% roster. He was an RB8 this week. He had, I think it was 18 fantasy points. But we just saw, man, in week 12, I believe, against Denver, he had 14 carries. And then this week, he gets 17 carries, man. So 3 targets. So 20 opportunities for Chuba this week. We have Deontay Foreman still getting his too, right? He's still getting his. He had plus 20 carries. I think he had 21 back-to-back weeks. But, he's battling that little, like, I think it's a foot injury, right? He was questionable for most of the week. So I think that with Deontay Foreman getting 20-plus touches and already being a little bit banged up, nursing that foot injury, Chuba Hubbard is a good little ad. And even with Deontay Foreman healthy, he's still getting work, right? Still getting a little bit of a decent amount of volume there. So I like Chuba Hubbard here as an ad. And as well as next week, too, they play Pittsburgh, man. So that's a solid matchup for running backs right now. So what do you think about Chuba, Rye?
Yeah, man. I mean, he's looked good 2 straight games now, and so like you said, with the injury to Foreman, I mean, he's still got a good workload. But yeah, Chuba, somebody that needs to be rostered, and somebody that I actually flexed this past week in one league just because I was had guys on bye and I didn't
Nice.
have a lot of running backs, and so yeah, man, it was a good game for him. So hopefully he can keep it up. And really in PPR, if he can, keep getting some of those pass catches and improve in that area, then somebody that really could help us down the stretch.
Yep. Absolutely, man.
All right, so number 3, we have to go back to Alexander Mattison, still only 44% rostered. And I know he didn't really do much. I think Dalvin Cook had the second highest snap share of any running back this past week. So we know it's all about Dalvin Cook. But with Mattison, like he's somebody that can help us in the playoffs. He has to be on a roster. If you have a second tight end taking up space, or even a second QB, and we're going into the playoffs here, unless it's like, an awesome QB, right? If you have Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow, okay, obviously you probably wouldn't drop those guys. But if you have a Kirk Cousins as your second QB, or a Derek Carr or some, you need to drop those guys, or a second tight end, like I said, and you need to add Alexander Mattison. He's somebody that needs to be rostered. He's a league winner. If Dalvin Cook goes down, he's an instant start in your RB or flex spot. So he's somebody that I think can help us, and that's really what we're looking for at this point in the year, heading into playoffs. So what do you think, Caleb?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Definitely like Alexander Mattison. I mean, he's a high-end handcuff. I still don't see how he's under 50% roster, right? So
I have him
definitely,
in so many leagues. I have him on
yeah,
my bench in a lot of leagues, just sitting there. So
yeah, definitely exactly. That's why I can't pick him up. But if I saw him out in any leagues, man, I would definitely pick him up right now. This late in the game, because if someone, I mean, Dalvin Cook, first of all, Dalvin Cook has not looked that good, man. Talking about dynasty and the age cliff, I don't know, man. Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, there's a couple of running backs that I'm a little bit worried about now for dynasty, and then he's got that shoulder injury that he's been working with for a while. So Alexander Mattison, I think if he's on your waiver, I think he's a good little stash, and just wait and see what happens, man. So moving into number 2, another running back that we think that you should be rostering is Gus Edwards, man. 53% rostered. So Gus, similar to Chuba, man, Gus will still get a little bit of work, right, in that Ravens offense. He got, I think it was about 14 carries or so this week. Didn't do too much, and we know they use him in the goal line sometimes. And Dobbins came back, man, 100 yards. But dude, you saw that run, man, and he does not look 100%, dude. Like you
yeah,
cannot see that, dude. Dobbins, okay, he gets caught from behind. I mean, pretty easily, dude. And Dobbins, I think it was like he ran like a 4.3. He was under 4.4, like in the 40 for the NFL draft. I think it was 4.37. So he's he's got some speed, man. And for him to get caught that easy, and if you just look at him, dude, he just did not look right. His stride didn't look good. So, man, I don't know. I think Gus Edwards is a good little stash right now, and I hope that Dobbins looks better. I hope he gets 100%. But it just seems, man, we know that even early on he wanted to rush back. Remember the first time he was trying to play, he was upset, and we saw a lot of clips of him not looking right, not looking ready. But it just seems like he's got the mentality that he wants to come back and all that, which is great, right? You like that about him, but he did not look 100%, man, which sounds weird because he had 100 yards. He had a great day for fantasy. But I think Gus Edwards, and then coming up too, they have a pretty good schedule, man. I know they have Pittsburgh for championship week, and then they have the Atlanta the week before, and then this week Cleveland, who's been pretty good for running backs, man. That's been a favorable matchup. So if something were to happen to JK, or even in a pinch, man, even in a pinch that where you just desperate at running back, I mean, 13 carries this week against Pittsburgh, pretty good, man. And of course, if he gets some goal line work, so he could be like a sneaky, like solid little 10 for you down the stretch if you need it, right? Like I said, in the pinch. Don't want him, more so want him for the stash and see what happens with Dobbins. But what do you think about Gus, man?
Yeah, no, I like him, man. I was kind of surprised that he was this, roster percentage is this low. Dobbins, it was Dobbins' first game back from IR, I believe, right? Wasn't it his first game
Yeah,
back?
first,
So it was kind of weird that he did get that kind of a workload that early from his first game back, and he did break that that big 50-something yard run, I think. But
yeah,
you're right, man. He didn't look right, and I felt bad for him. I felt bad for him trying to. He was basically like gimping on one leg. It seems like he doesn't really trust that leg. So hopefully for us Dobbins owners in Dynasty, especially, that he'll, continue to get healthy and improve, and he'll look better as far as just running the ball. But Gus Edwards, man, he's somebody that needs to be rostered. Again, he can help us if Dobbins were to get hurt. We saw what he did when Dobbins was out. He was the lead back. He took over most of the carries, and Kenyon Drake is basically droppable at this point. So he's somebody that I think needs to be rostered, especially with the loss to Lamar. We saw that they're not really letting Hundley throw a lot, right? They're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball, and then they're going to fake pass and run the ball some more. They do a lot of those types of plays, a lot of RPOs, but they're all just designed to run right now because they just don't want Hundley to throw too much. So I think he's somebody that definitely need a roster. So number one, kind of interesting, right? The news just broke a little while ago that Ramondre Stevenson is out for the game. And so one of those guys, one of these Harris boys is going to be probably somebody that we need to pick up in our waiver wires, because if Stevenson is out, if he misses any sort of significant time, I mean, the Patriots have a really solid running attack, one of the best running attacks in the league. We've seen Damien Harris in the past have big games as the RB1 there if he's not in a timeshare. He is hurt. That's my only, I guess, question or a little bit of a concern, is that he hasn't dressed out the last 2 weeks. We would think that it's a quad injury. We would think that hopefully he can get healthy and that he would be active next week. And if Stevenson were to play, I mean, was to be out or miss time, then I would think that Damien Harris would get a shot. But I also think it just depends on how Kevin Harris does tonight, right? So Kevin Harris has looked pretty good in the first half of that game. I think he had 8 or 9 fantasy points. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. If he has a touchdown, I believe, also Kevin Harris. So if he does pretty good and you hear over the next days, hey, we like Kevin Harris, we're going to, we roll with him. It's kind of hard. Bill Belichick is a coach that I don't know, we can trust what he says. But, so that's the only, I guess, risk, right? So, but I think one of these guys is somebody that will probably be able to play in the next week or maybe even 2 if Stevenson is out. So what do you think, Kay?
Yeah, I'm surprised that Damien Harris. I mean, I know he's been disappointing and he's been injured and stuff, but I'm surprised that he's only 55% rostered. And so I think that it would be him, like kind of the lead back, if he's healthy, like you're saying. I think that I don't know how much of it is like he's hurt and how much of it is where they just want to give like Ramondre the reins,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but I mean, he's been listed as a thigh injury, so we'll see if he comes back next week, and we'll see with Ramondre. But I don't think he's been back in, man, since that first half. So And then Kevin Harris, like you're saying, he's doing pretty decent. He's got 8 fantasy points right now. And I looked up just to see because Pierre Strong, man, we were talking about Pierre Strong in the offseason, maybe being that James White role. So he's got 2 attempts for 44 yards so far. And then he's got 2 for 20 in the passing game. So I think, like you're saying, it'll be like a 1-2 punch, right? And we'll see. Maybe Kevin Harris will be like that Damien Harris guy, right? If Damien Harris isn't back, Kevin Harris will be like the Damien Harris. And then I think that Pierre Strong's going to have a role as well, man, in the passing game. So, man, it's a coin flip,
Yeah,
and
that's
we'll
the
see
only
who is
thing.
valuable. But I think Damien Harris would be the main guy I would want, right? And then after that, I mean, you can flip a coin and see who you think, man. But
I
I
think
think that
it's.
go ahead,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's also worth mentioning that in most leagues at this point, I mean, pretty much everybody should be about out of fab. So I wouldn't really try to spend a bunch of my fab to
Yeah,
get really any of these guys because, I mean, a lot of these guys you'll probably be able to get with $0 bids or even $1 bids just because most people are not going to be bidding on players this week unless they lost a quarterback or had a significant injury. But, half the field is basically eliminated after today, right? I mean, most
yeah,
6 teams. Most playoffs are 6 teams, maybe 8 teams. So a lot of teams are just not going to be, looking at the waiver wire. So, definitely, if you have a waiver priority, maybe you take a shot on Damien Harris or Kevin Harris, or you
yeah,
wake up in the morning, you drop I don't know, a wide receiver who you're not going to play or a backup tight end. You drop that, Tyler Conklin or whoever else, and you pick up Kevin Harris or Pierre Strong or one of these guys that we're talking about, Alexander Mattison, and stash those guys on your bench because I think those are the types of moves that could be potential league winners for playoffs. So
yeah, absolutely, man. And I will say I think that there's a chance like Pierre Strong could have a role either way. I could see Pierre Strong in that sense. Hey, Damon Harris is lead guy. Pierre Strong has a pass catching role. Just throwing
mhm.
that out there. I think either way, Pierre Strong could have a role. Whereas if Damien Harris comes back, I'm not sure how big Kevin Harris's role will be. You know what I mean? And then you touched on a good point, man. You said not that many people are on the waiver wire right now, right? And I think it should be that, right? So I think that's a good point. Like, hey, if you're out of the playoffs, man, there's no business messing with the waiver wire. Especially, man, be careful who you pick up. Like, I say it's okay if like after the waivers run and there's a couple guys out there you want to pick up for fun. Okay, but stay away from handcuffs, man. You know what I mean? Just if you're gonna get an RB, just it's dangerous game right there because
Yeah,
if you could really alter someone's playoffs. So I typically if I'm out, I don't pick up at all, man. If I'm out of the playoffs, I don't mess with it. I have before, like just if I needed a player, maybe like picked up afterwards after the waivers run. But I try to stay away from handcuffs and quarterbacks, man, because even
yeah.
right now, quarterbacks going down, right? You don't have really any business bidding on Colt McCoy or Baker Mayfield, right? I mean, you really have no business doing that, right? Especially someone that just lost Kyler or something like that. So,
I
um,
agree. I honestly think that it's just bad etiquette, right? To do that. If you're out of the playoffs, be out of the playoffs. If you still have a chance to make it for sure, by all means, you're playing to the last round or the last second, but you're out. You're eliminated. Really, your roster should be frozen. That's what I think. I think the commissioner should just say, all right, guys, no more moves, right? You can't drop anybody, you can't add anybody, your roster's frozen, right? Because I've seen that also too, like where teams that are out will drop players that might have
yeah,
been
you got to be
hurt,
very careful
like
who you
like
drop.
right now, like Dallas Goddard, like Dallas Goddard's in somebody's IR, and they're done. They're not making the playoffs, so they drop Dallas Goddard. I'm like, dude, why would you do that? Now you just put somebody back in, like a top 5 tight end, maybe
Yeah.
better,
Or could
and
potentially be
yeah,
back.
it's like,
Sometimes they
why
don't think
would
that,
you
oh,
do
he's
that?
not playing, but in a week or two,
Yes. So
you
it's
got to be
just
very careful who you drop as
some
well, for
people
sure.
just don't really know. They're maybe new to it, but I honestly think that their rosters should just be frozen. So that
Yeah.
way they just avoid any of those types of issues. But
Yeah, good point worth mentioning. Now we got a little extra bonus for you guys, some DST streamers before we get into our strikeout ad. So for obviously Kansas City, popular name because they got the Texans twice, but little bonus that creeped up, man. Arizona and Denver. I like either of these defenses, man. Obviously Arizona gonna be without Kyler. We'll see Denver. I mean, I don't think Russell will play next week. They've typically been sitting out. I mean, there's really no reason to play him, right? Why bring him
Yeah.
back, right? So I think Denver, either one of these defenses I like. So I don't know. What do you think about these DSTs, Ryan?
Well, I mean, I have Kansas City in a couple in our guillotine. I have them. I'm still in final 3 teams left in the guillotine, winner take all. I think we
Against
started with how many? 18 or 16?
18. It was 18 teams.
18 teams. I
Guillotine
don't
was
know how
rough,
I'm still
man.
in it, man. I don't know how I'm still in it, to be honest. Um, but yeah, I like any of these defenses, man. Especially if you get points for like sacks. I know we don't really have any crazy defensive scoring systems. It's just regular. But if you have extra points for sacks and things like that, then even Arizona and Denver, man. Because if Russ is out, Kyler Murray's done for the year. Either one of those defense will probably get you some turnover points. So
Yep. And they're both low rostered. I think Arizona's like 16% or 14, and Denver's like 26 on sleeper. And then Denver also next week, man, it's got the Rams. So the Rams have been really good for
Baker Mayfield.
DSTs as well. So yeah,
Maybe
we'll see with Baker, but they got no weapons, man. So I like Denver playing Arizona and then playing the Rams next week. Worth noting to the Titans, Tennessee's got Houston next week in week 16. Not week 15, but week 16.
Yeah,
so
I picked up the
if
Titans
you want to
too.
plan ahead, yeah, the Titans got Houston again.
So yeah, I don't think Baker. Hopefully, he wakes up not feeling as dangerous, and so he throws some turnovers.
Oh man, Baker, man, that was crazy. It surprised me. Okay, so strikeout ads. Last but not least, guys, you wake up, or if you got zero money, you got no money. Keontae Ingram, still worth mentioning, right? Connor's been banged up. I saw the first half he got a little banged up. So Keontae Ingram, you got Jalen Warren, and anybody in that Texans backfield, who knows who the heck it will be, but Damian Pierce got banged up, and they had Rex Burkhead out there. Daria Gumudwale was out there, and then Eno Benjamin, I think, is your favorite, right?
I love Eno Benjamin, man. I don't know why. I think he's from Arizona State. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Is he from Arizona State?
Yeah.
Gotta root for the alum, man. But I don't know. Like out of all these guys, though, I still like Keontae Ingram, man, because it's just a good system. They're gonna put up some points. At least that was the case with Murray out, with Murray in, but now with him out, I don't know. But Connor, man, James Conner, he gets hurt. He misses time, and then maybe even Jalen Warren. Like if there's not really a reason to play, why not just shut down Najee?
Exactly.
What if they decide to say like, hey, you know what? Just take the rest of the year off, man. Save your body for next year, and kind of do that. To be honest, Mike Tomlin doesn't strike me as that type of coach, though.
Mm-hmm.
He's old school, where he doesn't really strike me as that. But you never know, So I like, again, wake up. You just add to some of these guys, drop some of those players that you're not gonna play. If you're set at wide receiver, drop some of those wide receivers or a second QB, pick up some of these handcuffs.
Yep, absolutely, man. So thank you guys for tuning into the show. If you liked it, be sure to like and subscribe and check out some of our other videos. Good luck in your fantasy playoffs on week 15. Hopefully some of these players will help you out, or even in week 16, 17, you'll get some gems out of the waiver wire. So stay tuned for next week, and we'll help you guys win your rest of your leagues, the last few games. So I want to tell them bye, Ryan.
Thanks, guys. Good luck this week if you're in playoff.
Yes, sir.